Hello. I'm James, and I live in Manchester in the UK. And you're listening to English with a Brew, a podcast where I talk about different day-to-day topics to help you learn English the most natural way possible. And that is only by listening to it. If you want to support this podcast, read transcripts, and get exclusive access to more content, go to patreon.com/English with a Brew. So, as we say in Manchester, get a brew on and let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you all doing today? I hope you're all doing well, as always. In this episode, I'm going to talk about what I'm doing right now, recording a podcast. I'm going to talk about all the things that you need or the equipment that you need to record a podcast, as well as some of the other things you need to do or have if you want to make your own podcast. First, and most importantly, you can't make a podcast where you just talk about anything. Well, I guess you could, but it might not be super interesting for people to listen to. So first, you need a good idea. Your podcast needs a purpose, a reason that people will want to listen to it. And that can be anything. Maybe you can share your knowledge or expertise about a subject or topic that you know a lot about. Or you can interview interesting people or experts on a subject or topic. Once you know what you want to talk about, what the purpose of your podcast is, you can start to plan episodes. It's good to plan the structure or the format of the podcast so regular listeners and new listeners know what to expect when they listen to it. And similarly, you can decide how often you want to release episodes. Every week, every month, or even every day, maybe. And once you have decided on those things, it's a good idea to write some notes for your episode. Or depending on the type of podcast that you are making, you might want to write a complete script so you know word for word what you are going to say. For this podcast, I don't use a script because I want the language to be as normal and natural as possible. I want to use words that I would use in my everyday life. But I do have a technique that I use to help me when I record. Before I start recording, I use an application on my phone to record what I think I want to say, more or less. And that application also transcribes the recording. It creates a transcription automatically for me. And so once I have that practice recording with the ideas that I want to talk about, I can check it, edit some things or change some sentences to make them more simple. And then I re-record it without pauses or any mistakes in one go or one attempt. And that is the recording that you hear now. But what do you actually need to start recording? Well, you don't need much. You don't need a lot of equipment, but you will need a microphone. You don't necessarily need a microphone of the highest quality or a professional microphone. I would recommend, if you're starting a new podcast for the first time, using your phone microphone. And if your mobile phone is relatively new and you hold the microphone close to your mouth, it's perfectly adequate. It's good enough. It's also a good idea to consider the place in which you record. For example, if you use an expensive professional microphone in a room where there is a lot of echo and reverberation, like in your kitchen, it will still sound bad. I record this podcast in a normal bedroom, but I treat the room by placing pillows from my bed and cushions from the sofa around my desk and in various places around the room to reduce the echo. Once you have recorded your podcast, you still need to edit it. You can edit it using free software like a program called Audible or some software which you have to pay for. Sometimes you need to remove silences or pauses in the recording or edit out some background noise like a dog barking in the street or a car passing your house. And also, you might want to add some music as an introduction so that it sounds more interesting or professional. Once you've finished planning, writing, recording and editing an episode, you are ready to publish it. But you will need a platform to publish it on. There are lots of platforms, but some of the most common are Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean. Some of them are free, but for others you will need to pay for some features. And once you have published your podcast, it will start to appear on all of the podcast platforms that are available. And that's it. You have a podcast. And now I need to go and edit this episode. So I think I'll say goodbye here. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. That's everything for today's episode of English with a Brew. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you did or if you didn't, and tell me what topics you'd like to hear me talk about in future episodes. And don't forget, if you want to support this podcast and get access to all of the exclusive episodes, you can do that on my Patreon page. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is where you are right now. Take care.